Hi, this is another podcast from Q Up. I've got Mike and Nick along with Gary Q on today's podcast. We're going to be talking about the news that is recently come out and how we are going to view that news from a boomer perspective or from a millennial perspective. Of course, the big news this last week, Hunter Biden was found guilty by the weaponized judicial system. So we're not quite sure how that's playing in Republican circles. It's interesting watching themselves kind of twist themselves into a pretzel, trying to follow the logic of how it's being used against their guy, but it's appropriate to use it against the other people. So it's been an interesting. So the question is Hunter going to get jail time?
Oh yeah, I think so.
You think so?
Firearms, charges. Even the interesting thing is that they don't, this specific charge, they don't generally even elect to charge people with that. It's not really commonly used, but a firearms charge with a drug related enhancement or whatever was going on with that is definitely, that's not a get a probation sort of thing, I think.
Yeah, right.
I don't think that. Well, so I agree there that parts of that trial felt kind of surreal.
Yeah.
Especially when I read the sentence that they called the gun salesman to the stand. I'm like, this feels weird. Like, this doesn't feel like it gets charged very often.
No, it really, they don't opt to charge this one.
I did look it up, and I'm like, okay, so how many people actually get charged with lying on the gun form?
Yeah.
And it's about 200 a year that I could see. And here's what I'm wondering. I bet you nearly all of those are in conjunction with something else.
Yeah.
Like then he went and took the gun and he held up a liquor store or he shot somebody. Like they're tacking on extra charges. As a standalone charge, I wonder if it happens at all, ever.
Yeah, that's a great question because
it feels really weird that they have to call the gun salesman to the stand and then they got to call I don't know, the meter maid to confirm that his car was there and
yeah,
weird,
Yeah, it really is kind of surreal. Yeah, they don't elect to charge that. I'm sure they tack it on a lot of times to be like, well, we're going to get you to plea down, and coerce a plea out of you. It's another thing we could throw at you, but I don't know that lying on the gun form is. But it was such a circus, and with all the drug, he was a felon in possession of a firearm, or that's gonna be.
So I was listening to a different podcast, and one of the theories or being put forward was that there's not actually going to be any jail time for this because he is technically a first-time offender.
Mm-hmm.
He was procuring the gun, but not to an illegal end.
Yeah.
Right. There was no crime that he was planning with it. And they get I guess judges get kind of a lot of discretion on those first time cases, and the person I was listening to doesn't think that there's going to be any time at all assigned to this.
Yeah.
Probably some probation, maybe some community service, but no jail time.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it'd be interesting.
Probably, I would honestly expect, if this was the result of some sort of drug-induced paranoia or mania, probably some sort of drug program.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'd heard.
Well, it's interesting. Biden went on record. President Biden went on record last week, said he was not going to pardon him. So that he immediately preempted that. So, as opposed to the other.
I mean, after the election, he's either won, in which case he could do whatever he wants because he's got 4 years anyway, or he hasn't won, in which case it doesn't matter because he's got 0 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. After November, he can do whatever he wants,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very, very, very true.
It would be, I think that, I would be extremely shocked if he decided, just based on principles not to pardon him at all. Because also Hunter's not 28, he's 50 something,
Oh yeah. Yeah. He's
he doesn't have a whole lot of years left. He's probably done incalculable damage to his body. So I mean, like
Right.
he could live to be like 65. You know.
Right.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know if
there's
Joe's going to want him to spend any of his remaining years behind
that
bars.
was part of the conversation I had with a friend yesterday, and his stance was that the judicial system has become so weaponized, and I kind of took the line of, well, is it, or is it doing what it's there to do? Like, somebody commits a crime, they're presumed innocent, they have their day in court. That seems to be what's playing out here. I don't think just because somebody is a politician that it says everything is a political matter per se, when it comes especially to the justice system. Looks like
we lost Mike. We'll see if he
we lost
chimes
Mike,
back
but
in.
he'll be back on here in just a second.
Yeah.
I know he was having some issues, but
Yeah.
I don't know what you thought, and maybe what you've seen, Gary, in the past. Like, I mean, were people saying this around? Was Nixon screaming, when I'm not a crook? Like, was it?
Well, it's interesting because
are we in new territory?
well, Ford,
I wasn't around for
gave
that.
Gave him the infamous pardon in order to save the country the grief of having a convicted president possibly facing jail time. Although that would have been unheard of. I mean, it's surrealistic. I can't even begin to think. Couldn't even begin to think that that he was going to get jail time. So this is we're in uncharted waters here. And it's interesting, by the way. Prior to the 2016 election, Trump was giving a speech. It was in the October timeframe, and part of it was, you can't possibly think about voting for Hillary because she could be, at that point, a convicted felon. And then we would have a constitutional crisis because, oh my God, what would we do if there was a president who was a convicted felon? And so rather prophetic words.
Yeah.
I think.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's very interesting. We'll see how that plays out.
Yeah.
And I don't think Trump will get any jail time, too. I think, when you look at it, I mean, we laugh about it all the time, but it really is the case is, he's an old guy. He's an old man. And he's approaching 80. He's a first-time offender. He's approaching 80. And, so I just don't see the judge, coming down that hard on him. I think he's going to, even though he has not showed any contrition like Hunter did. Hunter, I think was, properly contrite with the court, and Trump's been anything but, anything other than that. I mean, even to the point now where he's still, trash talking the judge and judge's family and so forth. But putting all that aside, I think the judge is going to say, we're going to give him, if anything, he might give him house arrest for 30 days to make a point. I doubt that. Frankly, the Dems would rather that he's out on the campaign trail. I think he does them more good when he's out doing his thing, so to speak. Yeah.
I mean, I think in the fraud case, I've kind of come around to my thinking, and I agree. I don't know if jail time or extensive jail time is going to be there, but in the other cases, I mean, holding classified documents, even one of those, not boxes and boxes and boxes of it, even just one violation of that, you're going to maximum security. Like, they don't play with that, and I don't think that they're going to give him the credence or the grace of, like, well, you were the president. That it's not. That is a hard line in the sand with the government. So there, I think he's going to be looking at massive jail time. And so you kind of weigh that too, is this judge is like, well, does it really matter if if he's going up on 300 counts of, classified documents, and he's going to be doing consecutive life sentences for the next 400 years.
To that end, the Supreme Court is running out the clock on the insurrection trial. They're holding up the case for immunity, for blanket immunity. And they'll continue to do that so that the case is not the trial is not completed before the election. And the judge in Florida is doing the same thing, the one on the classified documents. She
Yeah.
was appointed by Trump, and she's
She's
clearly
made
a
some very
partisan Trump.
interesting.
It's interesting. I was
Yeah.
listening to a podcast the other day with Robert Reich.
He's going to pardon any of those people either, by the way.
No, he's not.
No, yeah.
Because for the same reason that Biden, will likely pardon Hunter. He's already elected or not elected. It doesn't,
It doesn't matter.
There's no leverage left.
Yeah.
Right.
You do whatever he wants.
Well, it's interesting. I was listening to Robert Reich the other day, and he's a really interesting guy. Has a hell of a background and a career. And part of it way back when, I mean, he was around during the Nixon administration, and certainly he was part of the Clinton administration. And he first served under Gerald Ford, under a Republican governor. So he's had a wide range of experience. He said back in the day, back in the 70s and 80s, he had argued cases in front of the Supreme Court. He said at that time, you couldn't tell, what party the judge was from. I mean, you kind of knew, but he says now you have a Republican court, 6 of the 9, and they're going to toe the line. And so, so you want to see about an activated judicial system. We're seeing it. We're seeing it in a different regard.
It's a very interesting. I saw a campaign. It's a Christian faith group is initiated they want to impeach or have Alito step down because he's trying to turn. They're positing that he's trying to turn on this Christian nationalist machine that's going to take over the country. It's even the evangelicals. They're like, you guys have gone too far.
Oh yeah, no, it's a real deal.
And,
sure.
It's really interesting to see. There's been a number of those, and the Alito thing, this just keeps blowing up and going and going and going, and boy, your wife stepped you in it.
Yeah.
So
well, on the good news front, he makes Clarence Thomas look like look a little less evil.
Yeah. Well, and Clarence Thomas too. Turns out there's there's 3 or 4 other trips. By the way, I forgot to mention.
Oh yeah, right. I forgot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's regardless of whether or not that was technically illegal, it was wholly inappropriate.
Yeah, it's absolutely.
You hear the right, because Clarence Thomas is asked a lot, but if he really is this this genius of the law, he should know that that's not a good look. You're supposed to at least appear impartial, and accepting all these gifts and this lavish lifestyle and everything is not doing the court any favors. It's conservatives all day long complain about the left undermining the image of the court, but we did it with a lot of help from the right.
Right.
They give us all this ammunition. It's a terrible look.
Yeah, it's definitely it's just, I don't know of any other job, position of power, where there is no real ethical oversight. I couldn't.
Oh yeah, it's complete bullshit.
It's absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
And it's blatant. And the funny thing is that they're just well, I don't care. I'm appointed for life.
Down on you.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting.
It's
you would
bullshit,
think that something as fundamental as receiving gifts and so forth is beyond the pale, right? And it strikes right at the issue of impartiality. They did a chart the other day I saw. The amount of money that was given to, or luxury trips, gifts, and everything else, added it all up. Clarence Thomas had 90% of it, and Alito and the other couple of guys, they had 5%, and then others had $35. I think. Yeah, and I think Kavanaugh, surprisingly, he didn't receive anything. He was the only one that hadn't received anything.
Because nobody likes him.
Yeah, apparently, but the other justices, they had $18, $35 for a lunch. Yeah, so it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Well, the other big news that seems to be circulating, we have a couple things coming up. One is we've got the debate coming up a week from Thursday. So that's going to be an eye opener. And couldn't even begin to fathom how that's going to go. New set of rules. They turn off the mic when your time's over. There's no audience. I find it interesting that CNN and will be hosting, so not a friendly camp for Trump. But I've heard through the grapevine that this is all just kind of this game that's being played, and that in the not too distant future, that Biden is going to exit stage right. He's going to pull an LBJ, go on national TV, say, "I've decided I'm not for the better of the country. I'm not going to run," and then open it up at the convention. Personally, I think that's probably a 1% chance. I'm not going to say it's zero. I think it's 1%, but you never know. I mean, I saw it happen, back in the days of LBJ, and no one expected that. And out of the clear blue, he announced he wasn't running because he couldn't win. Vietnam War was very unpopular. And let's face it, Biden is pretty unpopular. And I don't know about you guys, but when I look at him, the difference, there's only 2 or 3 years difference between Biden and Trump, right? Age-wise, 78, 80, or 81. So they're both older than shit. But Biden, he's an old 81. You know what I mean? He is a geriatric-looking 81-year-old. And Trump, for all of his faults, he's got a lot of energy. I mean, he just, and I think
he's also wearing like
people
10 pounds of makeup. And
sure.
I mean, I've seen photos of him out on the golf course where I'm just like, you look like the obese crypt keeper. It's not a good look,
Yeah.
He's got stylists and all that stuff, and Biden seems to just be like, well, I got what the presidents get.
This could be this could be a throwback to the Kennedy Nixon debate, and Kennedy was smart enough to wear makeup during the debate. Nixon didn't.
Yeah.
Well, we've reached the point where I think Trump is probably a clearer communicator than Biden.
Yeah.
Right? Because Trump, he'll on a tangent. Basically, I'd call it like maybe like political free association is his style of speech.
Yeah.
But, Biden, he's like, every time I hear him now, he does this weird thing. If it's not scripted or teleprompted or anything, he cuts a sentence off in half, right? And then begins the next sentence on top of it. So it sounds like one long weird sentence, right? So he won't finish the first thought. He literally just stops it and wants to start saying another sentence.
That's right.
And these will bleed together like 10 sentences in a row.
Yeah.
So like you kind of get the gist of what he's talking about, but like there's all these missing words, right? And it makes it really difficult to follow what the hell he's saying. You kind of got to fill in the gaps in your head.
I mean, we also had Trump a week ago talking about like how he, as a child, loved playing with Master Locks, and Master Lock is a great company, and that we got to have Master Locks, and everybody remembers playing with Master Locks as a kid as if there's some sort of toy. I mean, he goes off on these incoherent.
But I know literally he's talking about Master Lock,
I don't even know how he got to Master Locks. He just started talking about them. And so, I mean, there might be coherency here, but there's definitely
did you get that? It was really painful. And I think it was there was the Time magazine interview with Joe Biden that just came out like last week.
And no, I haven't seen that. Yeah.
Oh no. It's like, it's not good. It's worse than usual. And then also he's got this weird bravado thing that he does too, where like every time someone like accuses him of being too old or something, he doesn't get really defensive. He gets like really aggressive. He like threatens to like beat him up or something, or like beat him in push-ups, or like
right.
I know. He said at the time,
I mean, that's pretty cool.
What the hell does that mean?
It's pretty cool. Like if you're 80-year-old, like I'll knock you out.
Shit. I mean, it's like, first of all, I doubt he could take anyone at this point.
Yeah,
but also like the weird old guy yelling at everyone, like he can like kick their ass.
It's not a good look.
Like
it's not a
just
good look.
Do better to like lean into it, acknowledge that he is old. That yes, he understands people have concerns about it. But like, I mean, he could go
Just
through
be like, well, I think you're
explanations
too
about
young for your
anything like
job,
that.
bucko.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like,
But
it's really
Well, there
weird.
was a classic. If you guys haven't heard it, yeah, you probably find it on YouTube. A classic speech or short speech that Trump was involved in a week or so ago, and he the teleprompter wasn't working, and so he
oh
riffed on
yeah,
that, and from there he went to, I was talking to this boat dealer, and then I was asked the boat dealer this question, and the guy said, I've never heard, that's a great question, I never heard that question before, and it's about an electric boat. And if the electric boat sinks, the current would electrocute him, or he can jump in the water with the shark close by. By the way, sharks, and then he segued off. It was like 15 non sequiturs, like one stacked on top of another. Half thought.
It's just
boom,
the age-old
over.
philosophical question. You stay.
What was scary was the second or third time that I saw that, I actually followed him. I understood where he was going. Yeah, it was pretty wild, So you can only imagine what the debate's going to look like. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think it should be, Kingsbury rules, like, you should, each of them gets one punching glove, like one boxing glove. That's what I want to see. And like, you can either answer the question or you can just take your best shot.
Yeah. See, like, they really do have favorable conditions though here for Joe Biden. Like, the fact that there's no audience that Donald Trump can play off of, or like, try and start a chant with or something like that.
Right.
Means that,
which honestly, like, has no place in a debate. Like,
True.
he turns these things into circuses. I can't say that I've ever actually seen the man debate.
No.
Right, because he doesn't.
We've seen him perform.
He does, like, he swoops in, does like a little quip, and then like he doesn't really know any policy or anything, so he has to shut up after that. You know? Well, now he's got, like, every time he's going to have 2 minutes to fill.
Right.
And, like, it's supposedly supposed to be full of shit.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, weren't we talking about it? How he was doing better in debates where there was more people.
Yeah,
because he could just I remember.
Because he can swoop in with
it's true.
Comment.
Looking back, he's as he just comes in. I just want another,
like, 2 minutes of peace and quiet, and Donald Trump making a response.
Yeah,
right. The first, like, 11 seconds may be like, his, like, quip or like his tagline or whatever, but then, like, after that, he's gonna have to fill all that with some sort of substance, and he doesn't really know any substance.
I read an interesting article that there's a bunch, and I know this is kind of a common thing, practice in politics, but basically these oil lobbyists have gotten together with these oil companies, and they're literally just writing executive orders for Trump to sign because they do not believe that he has the savvy or the understanding to, like, understand what they're trying to do here. They don't believe that his administration is even competent enough, and so they're getting this all geared up, and they have like this. They're just executive order after executive order of all these things they want done that they're just going to hand to him to sign. And
they
so you now have,
not incorrectly so, they probably figure he doesn't have the patience or willpower to try and read and understand it either.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and the funny thing is they were just out in the open in this article or in this interview just saying it. They're like, we don't really think he has the savvy or the ability to comprehend what we're talking about, but we're going to give it to him anyway to sign it. It's like that's interesting.
So what do you guys think about is Biden going to be the nominee? Do you see that happening? Do you see him staying in there all the way through?
I give it like 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 out of 3 right now.
Yeah.
It would have to be a really, really catastrophic thing to happen.
Yeah.
Like, the debate performance would have to be so bad. He'd have to freeze up for like 5 minutes, like sort of like Mitch McConnell or something.
If he does,
in order for the Democrats to justify a last-minute switch to convention like that, because it's going to be chaos if they.
Yeah.
Right.
And then he will not, like, even if he does that, I don't think he'd go willingly.
No.
They'd have to boot him out. Yeah. So, that would be as ugly as it gets. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting.
Which really is kind of bullshit. Like, it shouldn't be that ugly. Like, it's
no, exactly right. Well, I
I
think
think
he's
he's
got the
doing a
wrong.
disservice to his party and the country by insisting on staying in.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I think the
regardless of his
people
mental health
around him.
condition, it's just like his poll ratings. Like, it's not good for an incumbent.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think that.
they're not good now, but he's climbing back up. The lead that Trump had a month ago has shrank
Oh, yeah.
significantly.
Right.
And in places,
It'll always-
I was reading, like in Florida,
Yeah.
he's only down by a couple of points now, and that has been a very Republican,
Yeah.
stronghold.
By the way,
it
in
always
Florida,
comes up right before the election,
Yeah.
but like this is too close for comfort. I would say,
Yeah.
like this one could have been a slam dunk. We already beat the guy
should have
once.
been. Yeah.
Yeah.
well,
right
by
now
the
it's a
way,
coin flip,
Florida this year, abortion and legalizing marijuana are on the ballot. So
Oh yeah.
that's going to drive more participation
That's
by unlikely Trump voters.
And no lab grown meat.
Yeah, right. No lab grown meat. We've outlawed it.
yeah.
Well, the governor
Yeah.
did outlaw climate change. He outlawed that. So
it's not happening. Yeah, it's
so as
illegal
the state
now.
is going
So-
underwater. By the
Why
way,
didn't everyone else
Miami,
think of that? We should all outlaw climate change. It doesn't happen.
he outlawed climate
It's that
change.
simple.
Yeah. Meanwhile, on
Ron
Thursday,
DeSantis is actually he's like quite the big government Republican.
Yeah.
oh yeah,
He literally, like he legislated the lab grown meat industry out of existence as a carve out for farmers. Like,
right.
Yep.
that's like some
Yeah.
FDR level shit.
Well, there's
I mean, like he wields government like a cudgel.
yeah.
Yeah, it's.
I mean,
like,
that's happening in my realm too right now. The
terrifying
DJI
if these drones
drone
became,
ban.
could have
It's
become
funny.
president.
Sorry, it's funny. Yeah, it's funny that it seems like conservatives and the GOP really has just turned to using
Oh, of
government,
course.
like you said, as a cudgel.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
they're trying to ban drones on this anti-Chinese platform, and it's like, wow, I'm going to go out of business. You're literally going to put me out of business. Like I'm not going to be able to make money. Lots of people, whole companies are just going to disappear overnight from, this marketplace. And of course they'll later throw their hands up in there and be like, well, we were just trying to make it better for, American companies. It's like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's that protectionism that used to be on the left, but now it's on the right.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. Things have changed quite a bit because, to your point, it used to be that the Republican Party was the party of small government. They're the party of free trade. They were the party of strong individual rights, freedoms, and that's all like turned around now. It's like we live in, the upside down world. It's if you look at the Reagan, conservative platform today, that'd be laughed out of the building. Everything he started, and actually he was pro-immigration too. He had some, he had a proactive approach to the immigration crisis. So it's interesting to watch all the talking heads, by the way, which this never ceases to amaze me. The level of hypocrisy is stunning. Is on all the talk shows, the Republican leaders, congressional leaders get on and say, yeah, we've got this horrific problem happening, and invasion at the border and so on, ignoring the fact that there was a solution in place 60 days ago to take care of the problem. But they purposely didn't want to do that because they need to have that as an open item for Trump to run on. It's stunning.
Well, there's we up here in Idaho, we had quite an interesting GOP platform come out. They want to abolish the 16th and 17th Amendments up here. We don't want you can't charge us taxes and you can't elect senators.
They should be appointed. That's right. They need to be male.
Yeah, they should be.
They need to be appointed. They need to be landowners. By God.
Yeah, exactly. By God. And
the way God.
They also. What was it? I think I was reading it to you guys a little earlier before we jumped on here, but it was just such a wild line that I'm like, it's just proof we're not living in the same reality that the party amended the national defense plank to call on the governor to use the Idaho National Guard to repel an overwhelming invasion of illegal aliens. Like
There's probably
What-
10 or 15 of them now in
you gotta
Idaho.
wonder
Yeah.
exactly what the hell that looks like. So, all right, let's say that you mobilize the National Guard, you install some sort of like, martial law. I mean, like, exactly what do they do? Like door-to-door searches or
Yeah, like
Capo style?
no,
Exactly
they're just
what
gonna
they-
line them up and like throw them back into Canada. We're on the wrong side of the country for this impeachment. What are you talking about?
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Bunch of beer drinking
I s-
Canadians. Well,
yeah,
there's
keep
a
poutine
precedent
in
set.
Canada.
That
There
seems
is
like
a
some
historical
Janice
precedent
Meacham
set. You guys are too young to remember this, but back in the day, back in the 90s, Helen Chenoweth, who was a congressman from Idaho, she really believed that an invasion from Canada was imminent. And she used to refer to the black. In fact, the term that she used was black heliocopters. She used that on the Bill Maher show way back when. She says, "Yeah, there's
Yeah.
these
I
black
love that.
heliocopters
I love that.
coming in from Canada,
The
and
world
they have
government.
secret weapons. Yeah, they have secret weapon
There's like something.
caches.
There's some sort of like. There's some sort of like BLM conspiracy theory that involves black helicopters too.
Yeah,
Could
those
be.
are the world government helicopters. The yellow ones you don't need to worry about. Those ones
Okay.
are just your local news.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a fun, very fun position to take. I kind of like it. Maybe
Yeah.
I'll adopt it up here. I'll bring it back into North Idaho.
Bring
as
it back.
Canadians
I'm telling you, you could run and get elected
gotta-
to office.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm gonna co-opt poutine and kick the Canadians out.
You have to hand it
Has
to.
everyone answered the question about the? Has everyone answered the question about
What it looks like?
the odds of becoming a nominee?
Oh, I mean, I think that like I agree with you, Mike, that it would probably take dynamite, to get him to shift. I don't know that. Yeah, I can see him giving up, on the election. It would have to be something catastrophic, like health. He just like can't continue.
Well, it could
on.
be. There could be a health thing.
He's not going to go willingly. Yeah,
Or-
and it could
or-
be. It could be that.
It could be, though, that if the campaign is imploding, I mean, really horrifically, prior to the convention, then there might be some movement at the convention to make the change. And I like Mike, I think that is highly unlikely, but still, within the realm of possibility, because things can happen, and they can happen at the convention. Another interesting topic, by the way, that kind of ties into all of this is the VP pick. Who is going to be the VP?
Oh,
I mean,
man.
everybody's standing in line, according
To kiss the
according
ring.
Trump. Yeah, to kiss the ring. I mean, we've seen some sickening evidence of that over the last couple of weeks and months. Who do you guys think?
I think
If you're gonna, who are you gonna pick?
I mean, I'm not sure. There's so many people trying to jump into it. I think it would be insane to take the job, personally.
Well,
so
yeah.
but like, yeah, it appears people really, really want it. I know people have floated around a lot of like Marco Rubio and stuff, and I don't think that he's dumb enough
Rubio's
to do that.
probably he's probably the front runner. Oh, he'd take a nanosecond.
No,
He'd
it's
take
not
it, yeah,
possible
because for him
Rubio
it'd be a
to.
pathway to the presidency.
No, the president and the vice presidential nominees cannot be from the same state.
Yeah,
There's a constitutional problem there.
Yeah,
So,
but Trump could
could
relocate
normally,
to New York.
No, because Trump would not, Trump's ego would not allow him to be the one that moves.
Oh, gotcha.
that is
Well,
that is
Rubio
true.
could
He'd be
go
like,
back to Cuba.
Yeah, but if Rubio moves, he officially gives up his Senate
Rubio
seat,
could go back
Yeah.
to Cuba.
So that's a hell of a gamble.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, he wouldn't be able to do it.
No.
yeah.
In the past, apparently in 2000, Dick Cheney was really, living in Texas,
yeah,
but ended up
shooting people in
re-registering his address
Texas.
to Wyoming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
At the last minute to say, hey, I'm in Wyoming now, and technically, that works.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But you wouldn't be able to do that with the Rubio and Trump ticket because Trump's not going to move his address anywhere just out of sheer principle. And Rubio literally can't, or he gives up his Senate seat. He officially abdicates the office. So it can't be Rubio.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd
Well,
say
the others that
I'm
you've
still
got,
I think Doug Burgum is number
Yeah.
Doug
one.
Burgum is the
Yeah,
he's
he's
they
just
say
Mike
he's the
Pence
front
2.0.
runner. Well, the
Yeah,
problem with him,
he's
he's from North Dakota, so it has no political value relative.
neither
And
would Rubio. I mean,
yeah. Well, Rubio, at least
you
he's
know,
Hispanic, speaks Spanish. So
yeah,
Doug
I guess.
Burgum
I
is
mean, like,
his
but
white
he's what,
bread.
Cuban? I mean, like, Republicans already have the Cuban vote locked down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like, and like
Well,
Hispanic isn't like a blanket catch-all term either. Like
of
a
course not.
Cuban, like,
Yeah.
may have no tract at all with like, like someone like who's South American or Central American or
Well,
Mexican or
absolutely,
something.
that's the
Like they're
case.
all different voting
Absolutely.
blocks.
Yeah.
What about Tim Scott?
No. I think that Tim Scott had debased himself too much in front of Trump for Trump to respect him enough to nominate
I
him.
agree with
Yeah.
you. He
Yeah,
just,
that
Yeah.
was
I hate
too
to
much
say
of
it,
an
but
embarrassing
he just,
display.
at least Stefanik, some other wild long shots. But I doubt that's going to happen. I tell you what would be a game changer, 100% game changer, and this would ice it for Trump. And I know it's unlikely, but this would do it. This would ensure his election. Nikki Haley. And before you say, well, that there's too many, they burned the bridge, and so on and so forth. Nikki Haley, number one, is she's ambitious, should like to be a president of the United States. And number two, if Trump got her on board, he picks up part of the suburban women vote, that he desperately needs, and he picks up some of the Nikki supporters. So I look at it as a complete wild card. I mean, I equate it to as a long shot as Biden not being in the race. It's that much of a long shot. However, that'd do it.
I mean, I think that people look at Trump and they see him as a kingmaker, and especially in this context with like the VP is like, oh, I'm going to do this to become president later. Now, the issue here that you have though is that you cannot associate with the Trump brand and not walk away, untainted.
True.
Everybody, so many people from his administration, like ended up just getting absolutely eviscerated in court cases. They're going to jail. They're persona non grata in a lot of communication circles. They're not on the news. They're not getting those pundit jobs that they talk to. Not all of them, but like there is an element here too of like, yes, you have people here that are there. What they're doing is they're throwing their lot in, and come hell or high water, that's it. But I think Nikki Haley's smart enough to know that by becoming his VP, she will never be president then. I think that that's how damaging. Like I know plenty of people that would never even, they wouldn't walk across the street to put Mike Pence out, if he was on fire, put him out just because he's associated with Trump. Like, it's a really, I think that there's a really, really, I think Nikki Haley's smart enough not to do that.
Yeah, there's another angle to consider, though, and that's from an actuarial standpoint, right? So let's say that she was vice president. He'd be 78, 79 going in. He'd be 79 or 80, going into the presidency. From an actuarial standpoint, what are the chances of him making the full 4 years? Here you have a guy that's, he's obese. He's, I can't imagine that he's worked out a day in his life. You just don't see that many fat 80-year-olds around. I don't see him making it. I don't see him completing the term.
He's never gonna. I'm telling you, he's never gonna select her. She's
No.
proven herself to be insufficient in loyalty by maintaining in the primary as long as she did. That's never gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just not the way he works. It's
interesting because he doesn't have Mike Pence anymore. Obviously. No. So now now he's done Rubio, Doug Burgum, and Tim Scott. So I think it's going to go to the front runner to me is Doug Burgum right now.
I've heard JD Vance get voted or get.
JD Vance is another one. Yeah. He's a pretty polarizing character, though. JD Vance is
he's on
he's a
brand for
polarizing
MAGA,
character.
even though he did call Trump Adolf Hitler in 2016.
Well, there's that.
It's just wild to me. Like you
Yeah.
you stand here, you're like gonna go, I could be president. I'm gonna be VP. That's great and all that. And then you just look, there's Mike Pence sitting in the corner, just shaking his head, being like,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
don't do it.
Yeah.
You don't want any of that. Like, yeah,
But,
he'll hang you out to dry, and
Yeah.
you don't.
I don't think Ohio is much of a swing state. I think
No.
JD Vance has too much of his own following, and that'll irritate Trump. That
Mhm.
Right.
to some people, he's playing second fiddle to JD Vance, and that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
JD Vance
Doug
is
Burgum.
not a wallflower Mike Pence kind of guy. Pence was perfect
Yeah.
for Trump. Yeah.
He wants like
Yeah.
a forgettable, regular old,
Yeah.
GOP Heritage Foundation,
Yeah.
stuffed
Yeah.
suit conservative.
Yeah. Well, it's
So.
going to be interesting. We'll know pretty soon because they're going to have to make the announcement by the convention. So that's just a matter of weeks
Yeah, it'd be
away.
interesting to see if there's, of course, there's one vice presidential debate that would happen too. Then
That's
Yeah.
I
right.
haven't heard any negotiation about that, but I can't assume that they'd
Yeah.
not do that.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one
Yeah.
would at least be more coherent.
Yeah.
Right.
Kamala
Yeah.
Harris, and then
Yeah.
whoever.
Yeah.
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 Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah. 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 Trump was praising him not too long ago either. Yeah.
I know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Praising
kinda
who?
wild.
Hannibal
Lecter?
Lecter.
Yeah.
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 Straight up.
Where that came
What
from.
did he
Straight
say?
up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But he's like, I always seen Silence of the Lambs
Right.
at a rally.
Right.
He's like, it's a great
Yeah.
movie. You guys should all watch it.
Yeah.
That Hannibal Lecter is super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, wild
Then
stuff.
you've got, RFK Jr. is still in the race, isn't he?
Well, RFK
Oh, man, I
Jr.
didn't
is
even
still
know
in
that
a
guy was
race. As a
still on
matter of
this
fact,
planet.
he's close to qualifying for the. They reported this weekend. He's close to qualifying for the debates. So if he qualifies for the debates,
if he reaches
it's a
the
game
rules,
changer.
though, if he reaches it, though, they'll just move the goalpost. Like he's not going to get on.
Yeah.
I think he should have realized he's not going to be getting on that debate.
Yeah.
I also had a great idea. He should nominate his brainworm as his VP.
Okay.
There you go. That would be perfect.
Yeah.
Now that's a ticket I can get behind.
Yeah.
RFK Jr. and his brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great ticket. That'd be a
Well,
winner.
he's already got that tech,
Totally
the tech
balances the
millionaire as some woman who's got a ton of dough and so forth. So I see him as it could be the game changer. I mean, it's interesting. You look at some of these third party people, and it goes back to way back in the day when who was it? The guy that ran Ralph Nader in 2000 picked up a couple of points in Florida. Well, those couple of points was the difference between Bush and Al Gore. So it could be that big of a that's all it takes. Ralph Nader essentially got us George Bush II. So
it's going to be though it's hard to tell because it's with for instance Ralph Nader or like Ross Perot or someone. It's easy to tell who they're going to be taking votes from.
Right.
But with RFK Jr., he could be grabbing from both.
Yeah.
Right. He's got like a sort of celebrity populist anti-vax thing
that
would appeal to Trump voters, but then he's also got he is an extremist when it comes to climate change. He thinks it should straight up be illegal to not believe in climate change.
Yeah.
He wants to put them in prison, which I've never heard before. Climate denialist would be like an actual law where you go to jail under like an RFK administration.
Thought crime.
That is insane.
No, I didn't even know this. Like I said earlier,
environmental attorney.
He was still on the same planet as us.
Yeah, he was an environmental attorney. That's his background. Yeah.
I mean, like he is an extremist about it, so he could be pulling, from both sides.
Right.
And that could also just make it a wash too.
Right. I think that's probably the most likely thing to happen.
Yeah, he winds up with 2% of the vote, and he pulled 1% from Trump and 1% from Biden. It doesn't matter that he ran. Yeah.
So this week is going to be kind of an uneventful week. I think we have debate prep going on, and
Yeah.
we won't see much. The trials are all over, or they're on hiatus.
Indefinitely
So,
on hold.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you to the Supreme Court and the Florida judge. Those are all permanently on hold until after the
Yeah.
election. Yeah. So,
We'll just have to
all
see
right,
what
guys.
happens.
Well, another
All
one in the
right.
can. And
Yep.
let's reconvene same time next week's same channel and new
Yeah.
topics.
All
Keep
right.
your
Cool.
browsers
Sure.
open.
We'll see you.
Okay.
All right, see you
Most
guys.
definitely.
All right. See you.
Bye.
Bye.